Hello, this is Richard Pears of Finextra TV, and we're here today at Finance.Live, sponsored by Finextra and Responsible Risk. I'm joined by Mark Line. Mark, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. It's been a great day.
So here we are, we've done this event today, and you helped very much to frame the context of reporting and data in the world of sustainable finance. Tell us a bit about your background and your role in today.
Yeah, thanks. So, well, that is very much my background. I've worked with typically large companies, international companies, for the last 30 years, working on originally environmental problems, but then broadening into environmental, social, and as we now understand it, sustainability issues, and kind of helping them to work out how to answer the questions that were being asked of them by third parties that they didn't know how to answer.
And a sort of fact not known by many is you were involved in sort of the United Nations SDGs, did a presentation.
Yes.
Dare I tell everybody about that?
Very can, if you like. Yes. So at the time the SDGs were published, the company I was working for at the time very kindly put a huge amount of money to one side, and we were asked to evaluate the success of the whole global corporate sector in responding to the challenge of sustainability and encapsulate that in a kind of state of progress report.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have great experience, and we sit here though today with this climate crisis that we all talk about. And so, you know, on reflection, when you look at, you know, what you've put into the market through the work that you've done, what do you think have been the lessons that you've learned? What can we be doing differently, maybe better, if we are to sort of work rapidly to make a change?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, the first thing to say is that the climate crisis shouldn't be a surprise to us. You know, it was very clearly, even at university, I can remember sitting in a lecture theatre in 1978 being told about climate change and the link to fossil fuels and the need to decarbonise, and you know, so yeah, I mean, it's interesting to sit here 40 years later and reflect upon what has and what hasn't happened. I mean, I think what hasn't happened is that the risks haven't been clear enough, and they've not been flagged up in a way that are can be seen in a way that relates to companies' balance sheets until relatively recently. And it might surprise you to hear that, but I mean, you know, the fact that we had to have, you know, the Financial Stability Board publish some clear guidance through a task force on how to articulate climate-related risks, you know, speaks volumes. But now that's happened, it's having an immense impact on.
So political will, institutional will, putting in place the sort of the pressures in the system to actually report. You know, you're saying it's about timing, and that always comes, you know, when the crisis reaches its head, unfortunately. Now we get into the conversation which we've had today, which is, okay, so I'm a corporate and I'm being asked to report, you know, from many different entities on many different questions, and as a bank I'm having to consume a multiplicity of, you know, forms and data for different categories of my own products and risks. When you look at all of that, a lot of people are getting paralyzed by it. What's your sort of words of guidance or hope about how we can get our way through this? Well,
in truth, it's a mess. You know, so we've talked today about the, you know, we've distilled the problem down to 3,500 questions, and how on earth does any company or bank kind of digest that amount of information? But you know, if you stand back, then I think my personal view is that we don't need the answer to 3,500 different questions, and that within that universe, you know, there's a set of information that we do need to focus down upon, and the job in hand is to get everyone agreeing that they will be transparent about their performance around some key questions, and you know, to a certain extent, let the market decide. So the ones who generate good information and perform well, they should do better.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, maybe 20 years ago I wouldn't see myself saying this, but I do think a regulatory push is needed as well, to kind of maybe to bring up the drawbridge. So
yeah. And in the process that we've gone through today, I mean, you know, we've deliberately exposed, you know, people like yourselves, with bankers, with data scientists, with, you know, agricultural economists. Has that process, you know, maybe not, you've got the conclusions yet, but have you found that useful to sort of think about the art of the possible now from all these?
I have. I mean, this afternoon's been fascinating. I mean, I think we all know that we operate from within our silos, and you know, it's often difficult to get people coming from different disciplines and backgrounds to work together. What I've seen happen today is a really kind of collaborative approach, and people from very different disciplines being prepared to kind of trust each other to say, this is what we need, here's a possible solution, you know, that won't work, let's try this. So, you know, it's kind of quite dynamic. So it's made me hopeful. Clearly a lot of work to do. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I think it's the only way forward, isn't it? If we bring everybody together and we rapidly iterate through the processes that the market sometimes takes years to do, we've got to do that by rapid experimentation and testing, and then iterate forward to the next opportunity.
Yes, I mean, listening to some of the conversations, what I've learned is that, and it surprised me in a sense, is that some of the banks are actually quite conservative in the way in which they approach change. And so, you know, whereas I might have presumed that technology already is being used to address some of these questions of sustainability performance, perhaps it's not. And, you know, wouldn't it be great if the bigger brands got together and could kind of agree a common platform? But I'm not sure whether that's realistic.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, listen, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We've really enjoyed it, and thanks for talking to me today.
Thanks very much, Richard.